Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you again. Forgive my voice. It's been a long day. I've been talking, and I still have one more client after I finish this. But I, again, needed to talk to you guys. So I am going to be as succinct as I possibly can while being as informative as I possibly can. Um, you hear me talk a lot about the work we do in the community with children. Black Men Lead, Restoring Ghetto's Forgotten Daughter, which Marion champions. But what I'll tell you is there's so much work that's necessary on so many levels. We talk about the socialization of Black men, of Black boys to become Black men, and the importance of that to the social scheme of developing and building a strong Black community. I've taught on it, I've written on it uh, in great lengths over several decades. This isn't new to me. I've been studying this for a while. There are so many elements and components to Black empowerment that we normally get lost in the superficial and never look at the things that truly negatively impact us and have the longest negative reaching ramifications or implications. Before I get started, I want to remind everybody that we are in the middle of a fundraiser. We are raising funds for the organization in general, and we are specifically targeting the Black Men Lead Rite of Passage Initiative and Outreach Program, which deals with what we call wraparound services to serve the needs of an empowerment of Black males from ages 4 to 30 and beyond, because we do reach and talk with and deal with people beyond, but it was designed for ages 4 to 30 in a number of different ways. We need your support in order to continue this. And I think after you listen to what I have to say, you'll understand why. According to a study done by the National Assessment of Educational Progress, 85% of black students are below what would be considered a proficient reading level. 84% are below what is considered to be a proficient understanding of basic math. When I first started looking at this well over 10 years ago, what I found was 50% of Black students were functioning far enough beneath their grade level, starting at the fourth grade and then getting worse by, say, 50% were functionally literate. By the time you get to the ninth grade, that had dropped to 44%. And it got worse by the time you got to the 12th grade. Well, that has gotten worse since then. This was over 10 years ago. This is 2009 when I did the research on this, and now it's worse. And so what you have is you have over half of a population in some way being functionally illiterate, uh, and many being unable to read at above a sixth to seventh grade level. And it gets, I think the average is somewhere around an eighth grade level. The average is somewhere around an eighth grade level. And you ask, why is this important? It's important because a person's literacy is directly connected to their fluidity, their success, their ability to execute in life is directly associated with it. You've got to be able to read. You also have to be able to communicate it via writing, whether it's typing or texting, whatever it is. It has to be communicated. And when you cannot read, you tend not to want to read. And the problem is a great deal of what you need in order to become what you should is going to require you to read. And this is why you have a low matriculation rate. Children going from high school to college and in advanced learning as well is because of the low literacy rate. Low literacy impacts incarceration. Low literacy impacts earning potential. Low literacy impacts the ability to navigate different areas in society that will determine how well you fare in this life. One of the things that we focus on in Black Men Lead is to develop a love for reading. Why? Because if you develop a love for reading, you will automatically refine your reading skills. Reading will become a passion. Reading will become second nature. There's an old saying that if you want to hide something from a Black person, put it in a book. And it had a dual meaning because I know people who are from well off to wealthy, who have libraries in their house, and you'd be surprised what they actually have tucked in the books. So we're not just talking about the content, the written content in the book. We're talking about because there are just certain people that aren't going to look in this book. This is going to be safe. And the things that we need to know, the things that we need to understand require that we read. What I share with you in great detail each and every day is because of the amount of reading that I do. Well, if I didn't have that capacity, I wouldn't have the capacity to learn. I wouldn't have the capacity to develop solutions and develop ideas. We need our children's mind to be expanded. We need our children to be able to develop. We need to get them out of apps and video games and TikTok and Instagram, and we need to get them to pick up an old-fashioned book now. When they finish reading these books, when they finish engaging, when they develop their mind, when they refine their ability to think and communicate and discover, then you can go create the app. You can go create the platform. You can literally become an influencer in a way that you are literally the foundation of something you invented, you created, because your mind holds the capacity to do so. But when we sit up and good afternoon, SJ, when we sit up and we marginalize the importance of reading, when we literally treat reading as if it is some sort of monotonous task, when you approach a kid and it's, oh my God. Well, what you don't understand is maybe it's, oh my God, because they're struggling in their reading. And the problem is they are being progressed through the process. In other words, they are not, their literacy isn't being assessed in a way that it's caught early enough to do something about it. And so therefore it remains the responsibility of the parent and the community. This is why we focus in Black Men Lead on the importance of literacy. You have to read. And I know that that's something that Marion is big on with the girls. Look, I could talk to them blue in the face. And I've learned that it would be a feat to do, but if I could talk to them blue in the face and still not get any traction because of the entire programming of how we're set up. We're set up to gravitate towards sensationalism. We're set up to gravitate towards shiny things. We're set up to gravitate towards things that don't carry a great deal of intrinsic value, but are fun to look at, fun to listen to, and fun to play with. But it doesn't advance you. We're playing with things. We're listening to things. We're being entertained by things, but we're not creating things. We're not building things. We're not expanding things. The problem with that is that we have no power because we have not created anything for ourselves. So because we haven't created anything for ourselves, we are constantly looking to someone else for the things that we need. And that's the problem. And it comes and starts with something as simple as pure literacy. We have to develop the ability to read and write. We have to develop that in a level that we're not only reading words, but we're comprehending, because it's in the comprehension of what we read that we develop new ideas, new ways of thoughts, new approaches to life that give us the ability to think outside of the box, to think laterally, and to create solutions to the problems that we're dealing with. That's something that I have focused on my entire adult life, is to be a problem solver, not to sit up and just talk about the problem. I've seen people have entire careers moving around the country and around the world lecturing about what's wrong. I've seen very few, with the exception of maybe Dr. Claude Anderson, It's Love Him or Hate Him, Dr. Umar Johnson, that talks about the problem, but also talks about the solution. And they are often maligned. See, we have been trained to focus on the problem, and naturally and instinctively, the most ancient and archaic part of our brain is naturally designed to find what's wrong. It's the way we survive. The most ancient part of our brain was designed to discover what's wrong, because in the ancient time, what was wrong could kill you. But we live in a more civilized, we live in a more refined time. So the chance of walking out and getting killed by a saber-toothed tiger, getting killed by a lion or whatever, isn't the norm for the average person. But the reptilian brain, the most ancient part of our brain, still operates to find what's wrong. The problem is, if we never take that what's wrong and with an instinctive move search for the solutions, we will always bask in the darkness of that deficiency. And so what do we need to do? We have to build the capacity to be able to learn. Therefore, we need to be able to read, and we need to be able to read the things that may not be readily available, the things that we have to go out and actually find. Why? Because they're not going to hand you the solution. They're not going to put it on a silver platter. They're not going to say, here's your route to escape. Here's your route to empowerment. Here's your route to generational wealth. Here's your route to business ownership. You've got to go out and you've got to be able to read and discover. You've got to be able to take it, understand it, find out how it applies to you and what you're trying to do, be able to apply it, and then follow through. And then when you become real good at it, be able to teach it to somebody else. That's how you grow. That's how you become empowered. That's how you overcome. Until we get to the point to where we're doing that, we're going to have a problem. Again, this is something that we instinctively and consistently promote within the Black Men Lead Rite of Passage initiative is literacy. Now, we promote business ownership. We promote protecting the community. We promote financial awareness and responsibility. We promote brotherhood and unity, protecting our women and our children, and all of these things come together. But you cannot ignore the fact that we have such a large number of our people who are functionally illiterate. I'm literally leaving high school functionally illiterate. And we're expecting these same people to go out and perform at a level that we can say that they've achieved proficiency in life and success in life. And the truth of the matter is they're locked into low-paying jobs because they can't be trained. You know, if it's something with their hands, they can be trained. But if it's something that they've got to go through modules to learn, if it's something that they've got to go through a certain process, it's extremely difficult. Why? Because the reading comprehension simply isn't there. And so what we should be doing is we should be promoting programs. There's a brother in, God, what's the name of the little spot right outside of Philly? But he has a beautiful program. I don't know if it's still going, but I know he was pushing it as hard as he could for a while, and it's called Page Turners. And he's working, and the goal is to inspire young Black boys to read. We're doing it. It's a requirement in Black Men Lead that you read. Even when I have clients that come to me, read. Because, and I tell them, I said, you need to read. All of my clients, I'm telling you need to read 2 books a year. I mean, 2 books a week. Period, or a minimum of 1 book a week. You should be reading 4 books a month minimum. The top 5% of performers in this world, in this country, read a minimum of 4 books a month. The average American reads 1 book a year, and that's why that's one of the main reasons they're average, is because they're not pursuing something. See, what I can tell you is, by being an avid reader, I never go to bed the same man that I woke up. I'm always going to grow in some way because I'm exposing myself to things I haven't seen or known before. So I'm advancing my thought processes and advancing the possibilities of what is. I'm pursuing something beyond where I'm at right now. My goal when I wake up in the morning is to not go to bed the same man, to grow. And what happens is, you know, whatever I read in that day, takes me to a place I haven't been before. It gives me ideas. It gives me a way of thinking, a way of approaching things. It may be the solution to the very thing that I'm looking at. But what it does is it shows me a different way of looking at something. It shows me a new technique. It shows me a new opportunity. It produces me to so many different things that I expand. I expand daily. Well, that's what we should be doing to our boys. That's what we do at Black Men Lead. We are pushing them to expand themselves. We want them to explore life in a way that they can see things that they never saw before, so that they can create things that they never saw before, because there is a powerful force behind being able to create out of nothing something that becomes valuable. And we need to teach them that we need to teach them that we don't have to place value on everything that someone else places value on. We place value on the things that bring something to us that enriches us in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And that's what we need to focus on. But when you are focused on having what they say works, or having what they say is the best, or having what they say will give you this and do you this, now you are operating from their paradigms, operating from their position of thinking, and it may not serve you well. So what do? We develop the capacity to learn and think for ourselves. It's called critical thought. And the problem is we don't embrace it. Because it challenges us. We don't embrace it because it requires commitment. We don't embrace it because it's not a passing fancy. We don't embrace it because it's not trending. And so what happens is we get caught up in the sensationalism. Just look at the videos on this channel. Whenever I'm talking about something happened to a celebrity, look at the views. Whenever I'm talking about growing the minds of our youth, look at the views. When I'm talking about who got into it and why it's important to understand we don't do this, look at the views. When I'm talking about the power of restoring the Black family, look at the views. We get lost in sensationalism and we lose the ability to focus on the things that truly have value, that can actually grow us. My goal is to make sure that we improve the literacy rate for young Black children, especially young Black boys, because it is atrocious. And it is not going to change without us intervening. We cannot consistently and continuously trust the public education system to do what it has never done, and that's empower our children. It has conditioned our children to be employees. It's conditioned them to follow and be complacent. It's conditioned them to be compliant. It's conditioned them to just go along, but it hasn't conditioned them to think for themselves. It hasn't conditioned them to get outside the box. Now, every now and then, one of us goes and gets out of that box and goes off and does something extraordinary. And then you know what happens? The system turns around and uses that as the means of saying, see, it can be done. There's nothing inhibiting you, but actually it is. See, there's no way any student should be able to get to the 12th grade and be functionally illiterate. Absolutely no way. Why is it happening? Why isn't something being done about it? Who is it benefiting for a child to get from kindergarten to 12th grade and not be able to read with proficiency? Who does it benefit? It's definitely not benefiting the Black community. So then the Black community cannot be a participant in that type of system and in that type of acceptance of subpar learning. So then we must be the ones to sit up and say, we're going to do something about it. I cannot stress this enough. We're going to have to get off of our hands. We're going to have to get off of our pocketbooks. We're going to have to invest in the future of our children, or there will be no future. It's that simple. You can't keep sending over half of your children into the world without knowing how to read at a proficient level. Yes, over half. I'm talking about by the 9th grade, you're down to a literacy rate of 44. That means 44% of the children are reading at their grade level. That's alarming. If it's not, something's wrong here. We've got to get out of this selfish mindset about where we are. We better develop real quickly a sense of awareness and connectivity to our brethren, to the children that may not be biologically ours, but will represent us in the future as a race. And we better understand that it's important for us to be a part of the catalyst of change. I thank God that I have never taken a selfish approach to life, because I could have easily walked away from this a long time ago. I know how to survive in the system and do it very well. Matter of fact, I could be doing it a lot better if I wasn't so sold out to my people. There are a lot of stuff I turn down, or a lot of things that are taken away from me because I'm unapologetically Black, because I do not tone down what I feel and what I see and what I say. And so it is what it is. But I tell you what, I'm going to die knowing I came and I gave it everything I have. I didn't fold. I didn't sell out my people. I didn't go off and do what was expedient in the way of money. I've gotten good money in the past, and then, I'm where I'm at now. I'm definitely not starving. But what I want to tell you is my success is not success until my people can see what I see. Let me say that again. As long as I'm an anomaly, meaning that there are more people not like me than there are like me, my success isn't success. I'm not here to bask in my own glory. I'm here to sit up and say, what can I do to bring more people to this level? Because the more people we get to this level, the more people we have to teach, the more people we have that can foster solutions that can come together and bring us together and unite us. This isn't about, but see, what they got now is this big thing. Everybody, man, if I'm getting my bag, I ain't worried about nobody. I get to go hang out where they hang out. I get to go eat where they eat. I get to go live where they live. I get to do all these things. But my people are suffering. No, that's not how it works. How it works is I eat, I'm going to find a way to make sure you eat. And I want you to eat the same stuff I'm eating. I don't want, but that's another problem we have. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, let's really talk about it. Another problem we have is there's a certain level of gratification we get out of being better than our brethren. Being in a better situation, a better financial situation, a better community, we can't wait to talk about it. I'm over here now. I stay over there now. I watch it, but how many could you have helped come with you? But you don't want them to come with you because you want the feeling you get by knowing you got something they don't. That's a problem. Man, as long as I'm eating, I'm hoping you eating good too. I get no sense of fulfillment out of me being in a better situation than you. If I am, you may be in a better situation than me, but I don't get any gratification out of saying, man, I'm over here. Look what I'm driving. Look where I'm living. And you up there trying to figure out, man, am I going to be able to pay all the bills this month? And you know that you've got the best job you're probably going to get because you don't have the skill set to increase your learning capacity. And it's going to be hard for you to go find a way to train because now you're in a position where you don't have the reading capacity to do it. So the first thing you got to do is go out and develop your reading skills. And that can happen and that can be done. And that has to be an adult process and program. That's part of what we teach. That's the back end. The front end is teaching the little boys and making them read. The back end is giving job skills and development skills to Black male adults. You got to be able to perform out there. They're looking for any reason not to give you a chance. You can't give them any. You got to be on your game. That's something that we are going to have to address. When I created Black Men Lead, and I'm almost done. I got one more client today, 15 after. Look, when I created Black Men Lead, it initially started as just a way to address the violence in African-American adolescent and young adult Black males. I nailed that pretty quickly, relatively speaking, not real, but relatively speaking in the research and understanding and corroborating with other great minds like Dr. Howard Stevenson, Dr. Jordan Grew, and a couple of others, in learning what they had learned and reading their work. I come to find out that there's a way to address African-American adolescent and young adult male violence. It works. The problem is nobody will fund it. Why? Because they need the violence. You got to understand this. Anytime they fund something, it's not doing anything. It's for a visual. It's to make it seem like, look at what we're doing. See, let me tell you something. If what was being funded was actually working, with all the programs we've seen come through the community in the last 50 years, we would have more high performers, more high earners, fewer men in prison, fewer murders. We would have a lot less. But what we're seeing is a decline. So it is not working. It's meant to be an illusion of effort, an illusion. And so what they'll sit up and say, if you don't watch it, if you haven't watched it carefully, what they're trying to do is they're trying to paint us as incorrigible, recalcitrant. You can't do anything with them. They're not going to learn. You can't do anything with them. They're naturally inhuman. They're naturally animalistic. They're naturally criminalistic. They're not going to look at criminology that tells you that poverty drives violence, that poverty drives crime, that poverty is a problem. But what happens when you can't read? Poverty. It's our responsibility to come together and say, you know what? It's going to be me. I'm going to do something. One of the hardest things, and I'll tell you, and I'll be done. One of the hardest things that I've had to do is get people to support the work that I'm doing with these boys. I have no problem with people bringing boys to me. They every time I look up, here comes more boys. And I don't have a problem with people telling me, man, that's awesome what you did. That program is unbelievable. But I do have a problem with people saying, hey, what do you need to make this happen? What do you need? We need people to support their own. We have way too much resources to sit up and be pursuing something someone else has and begging them for it. We are going to have to change the way we move. We're going to have to change the way we operate. We're going to have to change the way we think. 85% are non-proficient in reading. 85%. How do you think that translates into economic fluidity, economic empowerment, wealth building, business ownership, community development, being able to read to understand what they're doing so that we can counter it? All of these things require literacy. Not to mention the psychological and emotional confidence that comes from knowing you can. You want to see a Black boy square his shoulders? Watch him read his first paragraph without stumbling over it. That is one of the most awesome things. And I have shed more than one tear watching a kid who could barely read 2 or 3 words read an entire paragraph. And then the smile that's on his face and his shoulders squared and his chin held up, and him thinking, you can't tell that kid he can't conquer the world. All he did was learn how to read. But guess what? He can conquer the world. If he decides he's going to do something now, he'll do it. Because at that moment, that was the most difficult thing that he could have thought he could face. And then the older these Black males get, the more intimidated they are by learning because they're embarrassed by it. So then there's an entirely different approach. But I'm coming. I'm not leaving anybody behind that doesn't want to be left behind. But what I'm telling you is, we've got to be the force. There's no way I'm sitting here and saying this and we can't get it. We fall into the very pit of what they set for us and how we view ourselves and how we work with one another and how we support one another. I've been doing this for decades. Anybody that's followed me know I've been here for a while. This is my second go round channel. They took the other one. It was growing too fast. Millions of views, going to the 20,000 subscriber mark. I mean, in a rapid pace. It had caught on. And they took it down because of a story I did on a little boy getting a whooping at school. And it wasn't anything bad. I said that wasn't a proper approach. And that's one of the problems we have. And it is. That's another problem we have in the community is we're bringing old problems into our current situation and it's not working for us. And Samantha X, absolutely. Fourth grade is where we really start to see a problem. And it's not getting any better. So what do? We have to be the ones inclined to do it. I've got to get off here because I got 10 minutes to prepare for my client and I need to get ready. Again, an African American male, young male. So I'm going to get ready to get off and I'm going to deal with that. But I'm going to ask you, support the work we're doing. In that description box of the video you're watching right now is a link. Click that link, go to the page and show some love, show some support. If you don't want to give through the link, the organization's Cash App handle is also in there and you can give that way. But whatever you do, we've got to start building. This has to be a national effort, literally a national effort, because we're in crisis and nobody sees it. There's a reason why we have an increase in suicides among African Americans. It's not a coincidence. It's a very strong and powerful trend that isn't curbing anytime soon. We are running out of time because we are putting children in unbelievable situations that they don't know how to cope with. And we've got to empower them instead of just releasing them. On that note, look, I've got to get out of here. I really thank those of you who stopped by and spent enough time to share. Samantha X, SSJK first. Raw Lily, definitely, if you're still on here, hey, what's going on? And whoever else is out there, this has to be a priority. We have to focus on it. This literacy thing isn't going anywhere until we make it go somewhere. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable day.